So the nominees are in. I guess, to me, so far, the biggest surprise, I have two, Eric. The first one is Best Director, Cold War.
Yes.
That came out of nowhere. Because it's not on any, well, it's on a couple of lists, but tell everyone what that film is about and who this director is, because I've not seen it, but that's sort of a surprise. We can talk about that. And the other sort of surprise, and you could hear the gasp in the newsroom when it came to Best Picture, every film in the Best Picture category, I think people expected to see up there, except for Bohemian Rhapsody. And I say that only as someone who liked the picture, and I loved Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury. But the film, I think, for some people was problematic, and I don't know that you're looking at a very tough category.
I feel like that film has divided a lot of people.
It really
because
has.
Either people thought it was one of the best pictures they ever saw, or they thought it was terrible and they could have done a much better job.
I mean, I'm in the middle. I thought it was good because I love Queen. I love Rami Malek in the performance.
Okay, there's two categories and there's flat.
That's right. I deserve my own Oscar.
I mean, you have to remember, too, with Bohemian Rhapsody, this is a film that made over $500 million worldwide.
Right.
I mean, this is like, just in the international market, over $200 million domestically. So it's a crowd pleaser, and that's what we're seeing a lot. I think this is the first time since 2009 that we've had two films that grossed over $200 million in the Best Picture and a film that grossed over $700 million in the Best Picture category with Black Panther. So what we're seeing in these Best Picture nominations are films that people went to see. We're seeing crowd pleasers.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people went to see them. Maybe more people tune in because they have more invested in these films because a lot of people saw them. But I like Bohemian. I like Green Book. I like Black Panther. First Man did not get in.
First Man didn't get in. Neither did Mary Poppins. Some people were saying Mary Poppins could be in there. Denny, Black Panther, by my count, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least, if you count the Best Picture, at least 8 nominations for Black Panther. So Black Panther and Roma seem to be the leaders.
I was going to say, I think Roma might be the most nominated film according to my tallies, but Black Panther on the heels of them for sure. I mean, amazing. Black Panther just made history being the first superhero film to ever be nominated for Best Picture. You'll remember back in the day, people were really hoping The Dark Knight would crack into that list. And in fact, that was when the nominees were only 5. There was 5 nominees for Best Picture around that time. I feel like in response to Dark Knight, they opened it up to 10 at least, you know? And so now Black Panther has cracked that list, which is pretty incredible and a huge feat. All I have to say about that real quick is you remember last year they tried to do that popular Oscar?
Yeah.
I'm so glad they got rid of that.
So against.
Because, because I remember last year the controversy was about Girls Trip.
Right.
And that it had made a ton of money and people seemed to really like it. And, you know, Tiffany Haddish couldn't get any love. And that maybe, you know, the Academy was a little too elitist. And I wondered if you thought, you know, what you thought of what Eric had to say, Denny, about, you know, maybe we're seeing a shift here.
Well, no, for sure. I feel like the fact that they even thought about this popular Oscar was to basically give other films an opportunity to show up at the big show. But to me, it always felt like a consolation prize. And so obviously today, Black Panther really showed them that they deserve to be among the allotted and acclaimed films, the best films of the year.
Yeah, I am. So if Beale Street could talk, I love Regina King. I really hope that she gets that Best Actress award. But it only got nominated for one other, by my count, adapted screenplay. And there may be another one.
Nicholas Patel is
the score. That's kind of a surprise, I think, for some people.
Yeah, would have liked to see that nominated for Best Picture. But we're in New York right now. We got to give props to Spike Lee.
Yeah, Spike Lee.
First time he's ever been nominated for Best Director. This is the first time one of his films has ever been nominated for Best Picture.
Right.
So I think that's great.
And
I'm happy for
adapted
Spike Lee.
screenplay, although it's not Spike, but his film.
Exactly.
I'm really excited for him. He's another one of those individuals like Denzel Washington we've talked about who've been robbed in the past for the Best Director. You know, I mean, everybody now acknowledges that Do the Right Thing is probably one of the great movies of the last 50 years. Didn't get nominated for that. Malcolm X, same thing. Finally, Black Klansman. Although I should point out, Denzel's son did not get a nomination for Best Actor in John Washington in Black Klansman. Any other surprises for you, Denny?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Black Panther making history, Spike Lee making history. Yalitza Aparicio just made history, becoming the first Latin woman to be nominated for Best Actress in 14 years at the Oscars, you guys. Basically, the last person who did that was Catalina Sandino Moreno, if you remember, back in 2005 for Maria Full of Grace. And she's also only the second Mexican-born actress to be nominated for Best Actress, following Salma Hayek and Frida. So Roma, I mean, came in strong today, and she was a surprise nominee, kind of knocking off some other favorites, including Emily Blunt for Mary Poppins. But I'm so happy to see her invited to the big party. I think she deserves it, don't you think?
Yeah, no, it's great.
There's a couple. So Romo's streaming.
Yes.
The Ballad of
Buster Scruggs.
also just streaming only. You know, what should we make of that?
Yeah, big. I mean, this is Netflix's first ever Best Picture nomination. This is the first streaming movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture. So that's a huge deal. You know, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Coen Brothers. It just goes to show you that, you know, Netflix is, especially Netflix, is trying to attract these bigger directors. Coming up in 2019, Martin Scorsese is going to have a film. We may be back here next year talking about that movie, The Irishman, being nominated. So, you know, streaming is now starting to penetrate the Oscars in a major way. We've seen it at the Emmys, kind of taking over television, but now it's Best Picture. So that's a huge deal, and I think that's going to go a long way in terms of attracting these other major filmmakers to Netflix, saying, look, we can get you a Best Picture nomination. We did it with Roma.
Right. Which means we can get you more money.
Exactly.
So it's worth, you know, a career move.
Before we wrap this up, I do have one question about the Best Actress nomination, because you pointed out earlier, Erik, that Glenn Close is a favorite because she has done so much. So her work has been incredible over the course of her career, and perhaps this is her year. We see Lady Gaga. We were sort of joking, Lady Gaga, sort of first-time actress, I mean, in a big film like this. But I am curious by Yalitza, because the Academy has historically in the past given it to ingenues that have gone on to do incredible things, but usually sometimes you sit back and you scratch your head and say, My Cousin Vinny, you know, or Mighty Aphrodite, right? I mean, there have been actresses who've been awarded this nomination against others that have had distinguished careers, and I wonder here if they might go with the safe choice, which is Glenn Close.
Well, it's interesting. You know, I was just at the Critics' Choice Awards last weekend, and Glenn Close and Lady Gaga tied.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah.
For Best Actress.
Yeah.
You know, so you do think, like, okay, so a lot of people are voting for each one of them. Does that cancel it out? And does somebody like Yalitza all of a sudden sneak in and shock everyone and win Best Actress? So we'll have to see. If I'm going to say Glenn Close, I think she's probably going to win it. Nominated a bunch of times, never won before. Veteran actress, an icon, a legend. I think Glenn Close is going to get it, but we'll see.
No one will be mad. Before we let you go, I got to ask you guys your take on this non-hosted show. Didn't work out so well the last time. I think it was probably one of the most panned Oscars. But hey, maybe they've learned from their mistakes.
You know, it's interesting. Last year, my buddy, he watched the opening and then turned it off, watched Get Out, and then came back for the end. So a lot of people, you know, in the suburbs, they want to see the beginning and they want to see the end.
Right.
And so I really think no matter hostless or with a host, they got to start off in a big way with a big bang, and then line it up for, okay, look, we have Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. They're going to perform. Bring Kendrick Lamar out. He's going to perform. You know, show us more of your cards of why we should be tuning in.
Right.
I think the Oscars needs a little bit of that, and they say they may track out the Avengers. Maybe the Avengers come out. It's ABC. They could bring out all the Avengers and tease Avengers Endgame, which comes out in May.
I think the Oscars should hire you.
Right?
You got a good game plan there.
Disney's having a huge year. Show some of your trailers. Show some of these movies.
What about you, Denny? What do you think about the non-hosted Oscars?
Well, you know, Erik, we actually talked to Kevin Feige at the Producers Guild Awards about the rumors, about, you know, the big push on the internet for the Avengers to assemble on the Oscar stage. He played a little coy with us, but he did say, you know, I'm leaving that up to the Academy and to all the stars reps. So there might be hope. I don't know. He did play a little coy in my taste. But, you know, we've talked to a lot of people about the fact that there is not an Oscars host yet and who they would like to see take the job. A majority of the celebrities we talked to said, you know what, being an Oscars host is kind of a thankless job. I say either go without a host, or Regina King told us, just surprise us. Don't say anything. Let's see who walks onto the stage at the top of that show. My feeling is, like, as Erik said it, save some room for the rest of the show. You know, you got people like Kendrick Lamar and Lady Gaga nominated for Best Original Song. Let them sing the entire song. How about that? You know, so I say go without a host at this point.
All right.
All right. Thank you both so much, Erik Davis, Denny Directo, for us in LA. You guys are amazing. We do this every year. Appreciate it. We'll be watching on the big night. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us.